To help get a better understanding on why it's important to focus on both your academic and your extracurricular success, we put together a panel that consists of 3 current college students and 4 college professionals that are going to answer some common students' questions. At this time, panelists, wave at your audience. Now, before we start our first question, let's take some time to meet our panelists. First up, Karen Fisher.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me serve on your panel today. It's an honor for me to be here, and I'm excited to share some information with you. My name is Karen Fisher Dickman, and I am the Associate Director for Undergraduate Admission at Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. I have been with Lynn since 2013, but I have been working in higher education and in admissions since 2003. So needless to say, it's sort of become a passion of mine, and I'm excited to help students out anytime I can. When I was in high school, I was involved in a lot of different things. I was sort of in a lot of different activities, from student government to class office, sports, community service, and I even had some experience in the music realm of things. I was in the jazz band and in the pit band for the spring musicals. I would definitely say that my favorite activity was definitely the leadership opportunities that I received in student government and through class office. I was fortunate enough in my junior year to go to a national leadership conference. I grew up in upstate New York, and the National Leadership Conference was held in Kansas, so I got to go out there for a week, which was super exciting. And then I was also selected my sophomore year as a Hobie ambassador. For all of those students out there who know what Hobie is, you are outstanding. So those were definitely 2 highlights of my high school career in that respect. And a fun fact about myself would be, even though I did grow up, as I said, in upstate New York, I am a die-hard Red Sox fan. Live and breathe for the Red Sox. This quarantine that has taken sports away from me has been terrible, but I am a born and raised New Yorker who is a love for the Red Sox that flows deep.
Hello, my name is Ernea Evans. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions for the Southeast region for Seton Hall University in South Orange, New Jersey. I am regional, so I live in Florida, but I cover the entire Southeast, starting with North Carolina, down to Florida, and then over to Louisiana. I've been with Seton Hall for the last 5 years, but I am closing in on my 14th year of admissions, long time, and I love every single moment of it. I really enjoy helping my students and their families get ready to and prepared for this next step in what we call higher education. It's a lot of stress and it's a lot that goes into it, but I try to do my best to help students prepare for that. Something very interesting about me. So, if you live in the Southeast area, you've probably heard of a company called 411 Pay. So if you have, they have these funny, some people love them, some people hate them, commercials where people are singing and rapping and things like that. Well, I sing a little bit, not a lot, but a little. But the little bit of singing that I can do got me an opportunity to do one of their commercials. So if you hear about somebody just getting in an accident and they're singing about it, 9 times out of 10, it's me. So I think that's very interesting about me, especially since a lot of people don't know that.
Hello, my name is Dr. Justin Lawhead, and I am the Dean of Students at the University of Memphis. I've been in higher education for almost 27 years now. I've worked with leadership programs, fraternity and sorority life, volunteer programs, multicultural affairs, veteran affairs, really everything outside the classroom that we think supports academic and student success. I look forward to talking to you today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. Thank you very much for your invitation. I am the director of the Honors College at Miami-Dade College in Miami, Florida. Miami-Dade was historically a community college that turned into Miami-Dade College when we began offering some certain 4-year programs. But at its heart, the college is still a community college, graduating the #1 associate degrees to minority out of that. And the Honors College is a college within that works with students just from Dade County, very high achieving, motivated students that are not very familiar with higher education, that may have been born outside this country, may have come to this country while in high school, or just started achieving later in high school. So they don't have the trajectory of a lot of APs, a lot of honors, Cambridge, ACE, any of that, but are very motivated. And so the Honors College takes them for 2 years and then really propels them into nationally ranked institutions. And because they do so well, they are typically awarded some very high, lucrative scholarships to be able to continue their studies. So we're very proud to have been working in higher ed for a long time, in admissions and in advising and student services in general. I began my career in higher ed because I was a work-study student in financial aid at my undergraduate institution. So that was the beginning of my love for higher education and being involved in higher ed. In high school, I was a pretty typical kid, absolutely no athletic ability. So I focused myself on student government as well, and doing a lot of community service work. In my senior year, I decided to run for student government and be the treasurer of the senior class. And it was a really big deal because it was this little underdog, unknown Cuban girl running for office against the hotshot cheerleader of our high school, and I won. So it propelled me into this limelight that I've loved ever since, I must admit. But I remember my high school years very fondly, and they were a big part of my wanting to continue my studies and dedicate myself to the community in Dade County. And something I think interesting about myself is I'm a huge beach lover. I live on Miami Beach. I go to the beach as often. This is the toughest part of the quarantine for me, is not being able to swim this time of year. But the funny fact is that I have this beautiful family full of nieces and nephews, and they all grew up thinking that I was a mermaid. And so I think they still do believe I'm a mermaid, and I've yet to tell them differently. So thank you very much.
Hi friends, my name is Caitlin Kirksey, and I am currently serving as the student body president at Oklahoma State University. In high school and college, I was involved in a lot of different things. I played basketball, I was the yearbook editor, I was in Beta Club, NHS, I did the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, all kinds of things. And then when I got to college, I joined a sorority, I was in the President's Leadership Council, I did all kinds of different leadership things, and then I was also involved in student government. Something interesting about me is I prefer soda in a can over soda in a bottle. I just think it's better, but that's just my opinion. So yeah, I'm excited that we get to hang out today.
Hi, my name is Antonio Scott. I'm a senior at the University of Memphis studying organizational leadership. In high school, I was involved in a few different things. Most notably, I did student government. So I was in SGA. I was class president for a couple of years. And then I also did a community involvement and volunteerism advocacy organization called STAT, Students Taking Action Today. So I really enjoyed my time in high school, and that really set me up for my involvement in college. And then one interesting thing about me, I'm going to graduate school in the fall after I graduate from the University of Memphis this spring to study higher education. I've really loved my work with college students, so I want to make a career out of it. So I'll be able to study and work with college students starting in the fall.
Hi everybody, thank you so much, Latrell. My name is Skyler Chasis, and I'm a rising senior at UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina. I will be serving as the president of Carolina Indian Circle this upcoming year, and I'm majoring in communications with a double minor in entrepreneurship and American Indian and Indigenous Studies. When I was in high school, I served in student government all 4 years and eventually became student body president. I was also on the tennis team all 4 years and then served as co-captain. I was involved in National Honor Society and a club called Virtual Enterprise, which was a business club. Once I got to college, I continued with leadership positions, and I am a Buckley Service Scholar, completing over 300 hours of service. I am also, like I said, in Carolina Indian Circle, and I've held numerous executive positions and will be serving as the president. I'm also a sister of Alpha Pi Omega Sorority Incorporated, which is the first and only Native American sorority in the country, and I've held many leadership positions in that. Something really interesting about me, well, I don't know if it's really interesting, but I think it's interesting, is that I love to read. So I have already read 5 books during this quarantine period, and I'm hoping to get to 10.
And so now what we're going to do is we're going to switch up. We're going to start asking some questions that we know students that we've received from students across the country in regards to how to get involved, how important it is to get involved, and just the steps. And so we're going to share the questions, and then as we share the question, we're going to have an individual from our panel that are going to speak up and give an answer to you for that. So starting with the first question that you see on the screen, share an activity you were involved in during high school that really changed you. What was it about it, the experience that was meaningful to you? And we're going to start that to Caitlin. Let's throw that out to Caitlin.
So an activity that I was involved in high school and middle school even, that really was impactful to me and meaningful to me was Family and Career Community Leaders of America, or FCCLA. I really jumped into FCCLA at an early age. I took a family consumer sciences class when I was in the 8th grade, and I actually wanted to join when I was an 8th grader, but my teacher said that they weren't taking any people in the club then. And so when I was a freshman, and at my school, our junior high was 8th and 9th grade. And so when I wanted to be in the club again, she said, well, why don't you be an officer? I said, okay. And then she said, well, I want you to be the president of the club. And I said, I don't know what the acronym is. And, we just kind of went from there. But my love for FCCLA really started when my teacher believed in me. And then every opportunity I had after that was just a continuous trial and error and up and down of really learning and understanding what leadership was. And I actually loved FCCLA so much that that's what I'm going to school to do. My degree is in Family and Consumer Sciences Education, so I will teach FCS in a secondary setting, which I'm so excited about. But it really, as a student, it gave me the opportunity to find my leadership potential and understand what that could look like and what that meant. But I know that there are so many opportunities for you as students to find what that is. My passion was FCCLA, but yours could be anything. But if you are willing to take chances and to step out of your comfort zone and do things that you normally wouldn't do, you will have the opportunity to develop as a leader as well.
Nice. Thank you, Caitlin. And so moving on to our next question, it states, and this is going to be given to Antonio. Let's get this to Antonio. How did involvement in high school impact life in college or your career?
I definitely think my involvement in high school impacted my involvement in college. So like I said, in high school, I did SGA and some community volunteerism work. And so that definitely set me up for an opportunity to do that in college. And so I've been a part of SGA all 4 years. I was a freshman senator my freshman year, a senator my second year. My junior year, I served as vice president, and senior year as president of SGA. So I definitely see that my involvement in high school led me to my involvement in college now. And then another organization, STAT, Students Taking Action Today. A lot of people don't know, but Memphis is one of the poverty capitals of the nation. So a lot of what we did in high school was to alleviate hunger, homelessness, and poverty. So I really enjoyed that. And that really kind of set me up to love community work and to be able to work in communities and using my privilege for the benefit of others. And so that was something that I definitely think that birthed in high school that I'm definitely appreciative that I had the opportunity to cultivate in college.
Nice. Thank you, Antonio. And this next question, I'm going to pass this on to Karen. And this is straightforward, an admissions question. We talk about grades all the time, but we want to hear from an admissions counselor. When you're looking at a transcript and you're looking at the students' grades, what are you looking for?
So a question that we do get fairly often in the admission world from students has to do with class offerings that are at your high school, in terms of AP versus honors and IB and all those things. And students say to me all the time, well, what if my high school doesn't offer those classes? And that's okay. Our sort of thought behind that is we want you to take the most challenging schedule that you possibly can, but also remember that you have to be able to excel at what you're good at. If math isn't your thing, I wouldn't recommend taking AP calculus. However, if you are planning to major in chemistry or in biology, I'd better see the highest level of a science, biology, chemistry, anatomy in your high school that I possibly can. The great thing about what your high schools will do for you when you are applying is that they supply us in the admission office with a school profile. And essentially what that is this cheat sheet for all of us admission counselors. So it lists in that school profile all the courses that are offered at your high school so we can see the highest level. So maybe the highest level at your high school is honors, and that's fine. Maybe the highest level at your high school is AP, and that's fine too. And we, again, then read your transcript and read your application accordingly. So no need to stress about the fact that maybe your high school doesn't have some of the same course offerings as that other schools might offer. We take everything into consideration, and we really make sure that we're reviewing your application in the best light coming from your high school, because you can only work with what you're given.
Great, thank you. And so for our next question, we're going to pass this to Skyler. Skyler, can you talk about the leadership opportunities you took advantage of, and what did you take from those opportunities?
So in high school, like I said, I was student body president and co-captain of the tennis team, and both of these positions really required me to learn how to delegate roles and tasks to other people. I really like to be in charge, but it was really imperative that I learned how to share some responsibility and lean on other people when necessary. I also really learned how to put my pride aside and let other people help me when needed. I think that a lot of people believe that leadership is something you just are born with and you just know how to lead, but I don't necessarily think this is true. I think that anybody can be a leader. And it's really, really important to ask for help and to lean on other people. So in high school, you guys have a lot of people who are willing to help, like counselors, teachers, advisors, and even your peers. And so it's important to, if you don't know how to do something or you're not comfortable doing something, asking for help.
Yes, that's a good one. Putting the pride aside. You have to do that if you want to be a leader. Thank you, Skyler.
Thank you.
For our next question, we're going to turn this to Magdad. And Magdad, the question is it okay to quit a school club or athletic team? How does it look on your resume? How does it look when you're trying to apply for colleges? Can you share any experience you had working with this situation in any of the applicants that you came across?
Yes, of course. I like this because it comes at your application from a very different angle, and yet it's something that a lot of our students can relate to. And so we in the Honors College, our goal is always to try to have students that can make themselves different in an application pool. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to say? What am I going to do that's going to set me aside in a pool of very, very talented students? And I think this question goes exactly to that. So if you get to a point where in the end, the goal of high school is to graduate academically strong. So, and to show that you're competitive, that you can do the work, that you can persevere, that you can achieve. All of those things are important. If you are, of course, at an athletic level that is now competitive and you're being recruited, that's another thing. But if you're on an athletic team that's a lot of fun and your friends are there, or in a club that's very social, but in the end is getting in the way of your athletic, it shows a credible amount of maturity at your age to be able to step aside and rededicate yourself to your academics and to show the difference in your academic performance in a year where you, or in a semester or in a half a year where you've let go of some of these things like a club or an athletic team. Now, it goes a little further to the second part of the question is, but then you have to also be brave enough, have the courage to move forward and write about this experience. Don't be scared to say, I thought I could do all of this, and my big lesson was that I couldn't. So I have learned all of this about myself that will translate into tremendous time management when I'm in college. That I was able to reflect on myself. What can I do? What can I not do? What can I really handle? What can I not? What are things that I'm learning from in terms of clubs, in terms of a social of it, and that are not benefiting me in any way, but in the end, taking away. I would also tend to throw in this at a very honest level, the idea of working while you're in school. I don't want to be naive and say we all recognize the importance that many of our students are assisting their families economically. And that's one very important and very admirable skill and reality. But if that is not the case, if you are working so that you can pay for your iPhone 14 or whatever it may be, or your new car, or some kind of social activity, and your grades are suffering, then again, I would put this into the same category. A job in high school is not going to assist you in the admissions process. What's going to assist you is showing that you're working at the best level that you can. You're taking, as was mentioned earlier, the highest level for you, and that you're achieving at that level, that you make the changes and the adjustments so that it really shows growth from 9th grade through 12th grade. And that then you're reflective about all of those changes and choices when you write your personal essays and your statements. Those always set you apart when admissions counselors are reading those essays and personal statements.
Nice. Thank you, Magda. And I'm glad you mentioned the work part of it, because having a job can, like you said, it can help your application if it's showing that you have this job, but still maintaining amazing grades. But as soon as your grades start to suffer, take a hard look at where that time is getting replacing that time. So thank you for adding that component about the work portion. And so next, this question is going to go to Justin.
Yeah.
How does a college view independent community service that I initiate on my own or with friends? We have a lot of students that may not have opportunities to join national organizations to do community service, but so they do things on their own, whether it's their friends getting together and buying groceries for the elderly in their neighborhood, and they do it weekly. How would a college look at that, or even anyone looking into that give scholarships? How would that be looked at?
Thanks for the question. Well, so what do we think about experiences that may be individual as it relates to community service versus a group? I don't think it really matters in 2020. I think with technology and access to whether it's lists or software, these individual experiences just seem to be more part of the norm than the exception. The only thing I would say to students is be able to explain your value and why you made those choices. I would say the value examination has to happen with both the group experience and the individual experience. So be able to tell that college admissions either officer or within your application why you chose what you did. I would also recommend to you that as you're going through your high school experience and you're thinking about why you did what you did or your value, keep a log of that somewhere, whether it's somewhere on your computer or a tablet or some sort of notebook. Because one of the things I really see when I work with students with resumes is they don't archive their experiences very well. They don't catalog them in a way or store them in a way that would really help them create content or application information or an essay that would really help them explain why they're an exceptional candidate. So in summary, I don't think it really matters whether you're in a group or an individual experience, but be able to explain value both in that experience and the other type of activities you bring to an application.
Nice. Thank you, Jesse. And so now we're going to go to the next question, and I'm going to start this off with Ernea. How do I get involved at a school if my school doesn't have many clubs? There are schools out there that we work with where they may only have the opportunity to get involved with two organizations. And so they feel as though, once again, they may not have the same experience as other students. What advice would you give to them?
So you're wondering, okay, my high school doesn't have a lot of activities. We don't do a lot unless you're an athlete or unless you're doing this or that. That's fine. We don't necessarily look for students just to do things at school. There's so many organizations that you can be involved in. Think of it this way. If your high school doesn't have a whole lot of organizations, but your church, you go to church, or you want to be a doctor, there are several doctors in the area. Even think about your own doctor or veterinarian doctor, or you want to go into marketing or accounting. Think about maybe shadowing some people in your area. The reality is, when you're thinking about college and you're thinking about your application, we're looking for students who think outside the box. It doesn't necessarily have to be you in this small, tiny box doing these one small things. Remember, we're reading applications for thousands of students every single year. We're looking for that student who stands out. We don't want to read the same essay, the same application over and over and over again. If you do something that makes you stand out, again, it can be anything. We read hundreds of applications a year about the athlete that hurt themselves or did this or did that, but that was their only thing. It's good to be an athlete or it's good to be an SGA, but if you find something that is completely different, you're saying, I want to be a dentist. You went to your dentist and said, hey, can I shadow you every summer or a couple times a week just so I can see what it's like to be a dentist? You want to do adult dentistry or you want to do child dentistry, pediatric dentistry. It could be so many things. Think outside the box. Be creative in the sense that you really want to hone in on something that you love. Community service, extracurricular activities, these are things that you enjoy. You don't want them to be a bore. So again, doesn't have to necessarily be your high school. If you have the means to get there and you can do these things a couple times a week or in the summer, those things are important. And we love to read essays or we love to see resumes with students who have, again, thought outside the box to do something different. So don't put yourself in the box where you're like, oh my God, my school doesn't have a lot of things and I can only do things at school. Not at all. Really venture out and try to wrap your mind about those creative ways to do some different things. And I promise you, it'll work to your benefit.
So that concludes all of our questions for the most part. We're going to leave with a couple of our panelists are going to give some final words to the students. And we're going to start with Antonio. Antonio, do you have any final words or advice that you would like to give to students that are currently in school?
My final piece of advice would definitely be to take advantage of this moment. High school only comes once, and in hindsight, I can now say college only comes once, so definitely take advantage of all the opportunities that are in front of you. High school is really when your academics start to matter as it relates to getting into college and making that next step. So really take advantage of this moment, cherish it, do your best. And always give 110%. As long as you're giving your best, that's exactly what you're going to get a return. So best of luck and take advantage of the moment.
Nice, thank you. And let's hear from another one of our college students, Caitlin. Do you have any advice?
I know we've had some really great discussions about how to get involved and prepare to go to college and things like that. But the one thing that I would really encourage you to take away from this is, leadership is an action and not a title. And what I mean by that is, you can build a stacked resume, you can do every single thing that your school offers, but what makes you a leader is not your ability to write those things down, but honestly, your ability to explain how those things have made a difference to you, to your community, to your schools, to your friends, whatever that is. It's great for you to do lots and lots of things, and we want you to be involved and connected. But remember that you have that opportunity to make a difference no matter where you are. So if that's in one club or if that's one thing, that's great. But if it's in a lot of different areas, just remember that it's always quality over quantity. And so being a leader means that you have the opportunity to make a difference wherever you are.
And last but not least, we want to end it with hearing from one of our admissions counselors, and that's going to be Karen, who's going to give some final words of advice to students on the admissions side as you start these early days in high school.
So if I could give you any closing advice about what to do in high school and how to be involved and all that sort of stuff, and really how to make the most out of your high school experience, is keep in mind, there are only 24 hours in a day. There are only 7 days in a week. So you have to make the most of the time that you're given. I think that sometimes students feel like I have to be involved in 500 clubs, 47 sports, do 5,000 hours of community service, have 2 jobs, and all this sort of stuff. Well, at the end of the day, if that's what you're doing and that's the resume that I'm reading, I'm thinking to myself, how well are you really doing any of those things? Because like I said, only 24 hours in a day, only 7 days in a week. 8 of those hours in the school week, I know that you're spending in the classroom. So how much time and effort can you really be giving to those other things? So I would say find the things that you're interested in, that you're passionate about, and really put your time and effort into that. Also, too, I think it's really important to remember high school is supposed to be fun. So make sure you have time to relax. Make sure you have time to hang out with your friends, go to a sporting event, whatever it is that you specifically like to do. Make sure that you take time for yourself, because again, I think that students really get so bogged down in the I need to do all these things because it's going to look good on my college application. No, absolutely not. If you're not taking the time to enjoy your high school experience, then you're really not going to be presenting your best foot to the admission office, and we can see that. It's always a red flag to me when I'm reading a student's application and I get to their resume or their activities, and it's longer than I have, who's been a professional working person for the last 15 years. So note to self, if your resume is longer than a professional's, you're probably doing too much and you're probably not giving the time and effort to each of those activities that they deserve.
That concludes our student leadership panel. I would like to thank all of our panelists for being here today, and I will also want to let the students know if there was a specific question that you wanted to ask the panel or a specific panelist, please let us know. We will make sure we get the answer to you as soon as possible. As you can see from our panel, the one thing that all 7 of our panelists had in common was that you must stay focused on both your academics as well as your extracurricular activities in order for you to find success into college, scholarships, or even your career.